What's going on? Welcome back to Trending Stocks. Today I'm going to talk to you about SoFi. Today was a relatively quiet / boring day, but a lot of the data points behind the scenes are starting to look a little bit more bullish. So I want to go over some of those data points and what might be coming next. Before I get into any of that, make sure you guys hit that thumbs up. And with that, let's get right to it. So SoFi did go down 0.14%. Very volatile day. So 693 the low, 709 is the high. So a lot of volatility, especially like I've said, this whole week is a more of a technical driven week, and the fib levels in SoFi's case are very wide, so just anticipate a lot of volatility in the foreseeable future. But the fact is that SoFi kept gravitating towards this pivot point is relatively good and could signal a breakout coming. So I'm going to talk about that in a second, but 29.4 million shares being traded, 46.7 is the average. You did see a lot more institutions looking at SoFi today. So these are all the transactions that did occur on the secondary market above $100,000 and some pretty big ones. So 4.14 million, 1.71 million. Aside from that, you only had one transaction that was a sell. So based on the bid, the ask and the selling price, everything except for this one was a buy. So relatively good stuff, a nice change of events from what has been happening. Today there's been no official news. There was that 10Q that came out yesterday after hours, and then aside from that, you do see Anthony very active on social media over this last couple of days. No substantial pieces of news or anything to speculate from, but it's kind of interesting to see that he's a little bit more active, engaging with people. So I see that as somewhat optimistic, because typically if a company is pulling down and due to go down, you see normally CEOs go silent. So he's very much out there engaging with a lot of people. So I see that as a very bullish sign. Aside from that, another bullish aspect is shorts. Shorts returning 930,000 shares today. 20.18% of the free float is being shorted. That works out to be 200.35 million shares overall are being shorted. Utilization 87.23, and overall, based on how many shares are being shorted, that works out to be $1.42 billion worth. Fairly high stuff. And then cost of borrow average is 0.57. The reason why I like to analyze this information, by SoFi being red the majority of the day and shorts returning, that's kind of shows that today wasn't really justified. So again, like I said at the beginning, a bullish signal. Also, another bullish signal is looking at the options. So I have been bringing this up. So this is the current open interest on the calls. Like I said, SoFi's really struggled with walls of resistance in the past. So right now there's 18,000 at the 7, 35,000 at the 750. Next week you see a lot of strong ones, the 750 and higher. But there wasn't any change at the $7 strike price. If anything, it went down slightly. So that does insinuate that maybe they're anticipating SoFi to kind of break out to at least the 750 range. So I see that as somewhat optimistic, especially SoFi has really struggled with these walls. So the fact that one of these very strong resistance levels is starting to diminish. So I see that as, again, another bullish data point. Looking at some of the options, 3.7 million in calls, 2.1 in puts. Sentiment wise though, 47% of all the options being done today are bearish. And one thing that as well, it's not really an indicator or anything, but I have seen more and more bullish articles coming out. So I think again, that's kind of a good thing. Maybe it is correlated with just more institutions paying attention to it today, but there was this one that did come out. So this magnificent fintech stock is down 30% this year, but one Wall Street analyst sees it going 72% higher. So I think, once again, fairly good stuff. It talks about just the growth and just the organic growth of SoFi. And yeah, I completely agree. Their actual numbers from their earnings were phenomenal. Q2, I think that was more of an overreaction and probably had some influence due to manipulation as well, just to kind of blow it out of proportion. And plus, just on the technicals aside from that, their earnings, going into earnings, it was considered somewhat overbought. So you had some of a Palantir scenario. So even though good numbers came out, just based on the evaluation, it just was due to pull down. But beside the point, I see this article and just more analysts looking at it as a good thing. Speaking on analysts, us. I'll give you a quick overview of that. So last one was done 7 days ago, $12 price target, 𝗪𝗧𝗛, who does have a 51% success rating. So hopefully more analysts do jump on board next week as CPI does come out, and that way they'll be able to reevaluate the bigger picture. But still, a lot of analysts did come down the pipeline and whatever else. So aside from that though, I did have a couple of comments. Some people wanted the latest Morningstar report. So latest one does signal $13 being a fair market value for SoFi. That is based on the assets. And so that did go up, I believe, from 12 from, I guess, post their earnings, if that makes sense. So again, pretty good data points behind the scenes. Is it a reason to buy a SoFi because of this Morningstar report? Not necessarily. So it's just a lot of data points for you guys to digest. Aside from that though, these are some of the transactions that did occur on the dark pool. So dark pool, very, very popular. So 4 million, 1.06 million. And dark pool is often enough used by large institutions as well as shorting. So you never know. Based on all of this, it can't be shorts because the volume doesn't add up. So big money is buying behind the scenes, whether it be BlackRock, Vanguard, or another one of those big names. So once again, something to kind of keep monitoring, right? Because I know usually what institutions like to do is they like to buy, and then 2 weeks later they come out and say, hey, you know what, SoFi is an amazing buying opportunity. Everyone should do so. So they wait until they have accumulated a sufficient amount of shares, then they turn relatively bullish on the market. So that could be coming down the pipeline. Once again, maybe they're just waiting for CPI or something like that. But right now, with it closing at 705, it is between this S1 and the pivot. So still 711 is going to be that strong resistance point that you'll want to watch for SoFi to get above. But based on a lot of the data points, it's looking a lot more optimistic. So hopefully in the next couple of days, by the tail end of the week, you see it above this pivot point right here. And then in theory, it could run up to, like I said, around that 750. Even looking on the chart itself, lower percentile of the Bollinger Band over this last couple of days, it does show consolidation. So that is very good. You do see no defined trend right now, but it is at 32. So that is relatively still oversold. Again, could really help SoFi if there is a good piece of news that does come out, causing it to go up, and obviously value investors to look a little bit more closely at SoFi. Number of retail investors haven't been doing all that much, aside from actually after their earnings, which caused them to sell out a little bit. Like, retail has been holding like a champ over this last little bit. So I see that as a relatively good thing. The only thing you need right now is just a little bit more institutions to pay attention to SoFi, but still, based on a lot of the data points that I like to analyze, things are looking fairly good for SoFi. But I could be wrong. Crystal ball isn't always right. So you guys always do your own due diligence at the end of the day. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up and subscribe. I always greatly appreciate that. One thing I just wanted to share with you. So I am going on a quick trip as of tomorrow. So I'll be gone for like a week or so. So unfortunately, this might be the last SoFi video unless something crazy happens tomorrow that I wanted to share with you in the morning. This will probably be my last SoFi video for a little bit. So hopefully you guys do all good and everything like that. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up and subscribe. And with all that said, appreciate all of you watching.